Hello, my name is Saj Mohammed and I'm a learning support practitioner. I've worked in FE and adult education over the last 5 years, and I've also taught functional skills, maths and ESOL. Today I want to talk a little bit about inclusion and taking what I would call a more universal approach. When thinking about inclusion, it's obviously important to make adjustments for learners with additional needs. But can some of these adjustments actually benefit all of your learners? And I've got a lot of experience of supporting students with dyslexia, so I'm just going to talk through a few strategies that can help those learners, but also could benefit really the whole group that you're teaching. Something I've used very successfully with a lot of students with dyslexia is pre-teaching. Students with dyslexia can often struggle to process new information at the same speed as their peers. And pre-teaching is really an opportunity for them in advance of the lesson to get that new information and ask relevant questions and really begin to grasp what the new learning is. So in the main lesson, they're able to keep pace with their peers. But I think it's fair to say that all learners in a group will take on the information at different speeds. So pre-teaching doesn't just have to be something that we offer to those students with dyslexia. It's something that we can offer to all of our learners. And this could be in the form of a session before the main lesson done by the subject teacher, or it could be done as a small group or a one-to-one tutorial taken by a learning support practitioner, depending on what's most feasible. And in a lot of settings, flipped learning is already taking place. So that type of approach can be built upon to offer this type of pre-teaching. Another area that can be a struggle for students with dyslexia is subject-specific vocabulary. Again, it's that taking on of new information. And I think it's fair to say that this isn't just a barrier to learning for students with dyslexia, but it can be a barrier for many learners. So things like encouraging learners to take a new vocabulary down in a word bank and recording definitions can be a really good way to ensure their understanding, especially when they're putting the definitions down in their own words to really show that they've grasped it. I think it's important to say as well that getting students to record synonyms is important as well. We may switch between different terms meaning the same thing without even realising it. So we may begin talking about competencies and then start talking about domains when we really mean the same thing. But not all learners are going to be confident enough to put their hand up and say that they didn't quite understand what you were talking about. So I think it's really important to ensure that learners really grasping synonyms, getting an understanding of them. And I think it can really, as well as enriching their vocabulary, can really enhance the quality of their written and spoken communication. And then finally, readability. So when we're designing our resources, there are lots of things that you can do to make things as easy to read as possible. And the British Dyslexia Association, for example, has some good guidelines in this area. And one thing that you can do is minimising the amount of text in resources. So making the information as really as clear to kind of read as possible, rather than having lots and lots of dense text. And using images along with the text can make it a lot easier for our students to grasp the information, as well as hopefully improving their memory recall as well. And making things as easy to read as possible can also make them more visually appealing. So things like avoiding bright white backgrounds in PowerPoints or not using bright white paper for handouts, as well as avoiding things like eye strain for some students. I think it doesn't hurt to make our resources really as visually appealing as possible. And I think in this presentation you've been watching, I've I've tried to preserve this as much as possible. So finally, when we're thinking about universality, when planning learning, what elements of Ascend practice can we put into practice when we're planning teaching and learning, putting together those lesson plans and the resources that can really benefit all of our learners. And if you're not sure where to start, the ETF has the Ascend Excellence Gateway, and there's lots of really good resources on there, and also signposts to other resources on the internet as well. So thank you for listening, and if you've got any questions or any feedback, then feel free to get in touch with me on Twitter at I_get_it_now_ed.